Yeah.
Our voice is clear, sir. Are we
Right
audible?
Right now it's
Okay, okay. Let me, I think I might have not been audible. Let me introduce once again. On right side, we have Professor R.V. Kardi, sir, Department of Pharmacognosy. She is Dr. F.S. Fatima Dasankop, Madam, Professor, Department of Pharmaceutics. So, am I audible, sir? I think there is issue with the link.
in fact again joining with my phone also in one another system.
Okay.
So there might be any problem in between, then I can switch to that.
Okay, okay, fine, sir. Thank you. Okay, sir. With your permission, shall we begin, sir?
Yes, yes, sure. Please, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Good morning, dear delegates and the eminent speaker, Dr. Saeed Ahmed. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome Professor Dr. Saeed Ahmed, sir, speaker of this session. He is from Department of Pharmacognosy and Phytochemistry, Jamia Ahmedabad, New Delhi. His topic of presentation is metabolomics and ethnopharmacology in pharmacognosy. Let me introduce Dr. Saeed Ahmed, sir, to you all. Dr. Saeed Ahmed, he is working as an associate professor, Department of Pharmacognosy and Phytochemistry, School of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, Jamia Ahmedabad, New Delhi. Has been associated in teaching and research in the field of herbal drugs and natural products since 2005, after his completion of a doctorate in pharmacognosy and phytochemistry. He did his postdoc from Albert Einstein College of Medicine, New York, USA, and also worked as visiting scientist in many countries. He has been honored with many awards such as CST-UP Young Scientist Award 2008-2009, DST Boy Scat Award 2009-10, AICTE Career Award 2009-10, as well as UGC Research Award 2016 and SFE Young Ethnopharmacologist Award 2017, SFE Special Recognition Award 2020, in addition to many Best Publication Awards. He has to his credit more than 300 publications in several peer-reviewed refereed journals with an H index of 34, I-10 index of 110, citations more than 4,500, and also authored books in pharmacognosy. He has visited more than 17 countries and actively associated with many societies and organizations such as Society of Ethnopharmacology, India, Internal Society for Ethnopharmacology, ACS, American Society of Pharmacognosy, AOAC International, USP and IUSH, etc. Dr. Ahmed has been associated with more than 40 sponsored research projects from different funding agencies, in addition to many industry-based consultancy projects from India and abroad. He has also organized one International SFEC 2020, 3 national level seminars and 4 workshops on herbal drugs and botanicals, and delivered more than 80 invited talks and chaired many scientific sessions at different forums on herbal drugs and chromatography. He has instituted about a dozen of MOUs from national and international organizations. He has supervised more than 30 MPharm and 27 PhD scholars. His field of interest is in research are metabolomics, chromatographic analysis, including HPLC, HPLC, LCMS, and GCMS, etc., for targeted and untargeted metabolites in biological system and for quality control. So with this biodata, we are fortunate enough to have amongst us Dr. Syed Ahmed sir for this session. So thank you, sir. Thank you for accepting once again our invitation and being on board of this resource person of this FDP program. So with this, I request you to please take over the session.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pasha. I think I must be audible.
Yes, sir. Yes. Volume is little low, sir. If you can just increase. And if you can switch off your video, I think it should suffice the bandwidth.
So thank you very much, Dr. Pasha and Kieli, for inviting me for this valuable session. In fact, I seen that this is in pharmacognosy, so this is best to talk on this forum. So I am audible right now?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, thank you very much. So
Sir, you're not audible. Maybe there is a link issue. Would you like to switch off the video, sir? So
in like my presentation of about 80 slides, where I'm going to cover little about Jamia Hamdard and my laboratory, then some introduction about metabolomics and ethnopharmacology and their role and their use in drug discovery. Then I am audible right now.
You're audible, sir, but a video link is interrupting in between.
Okay. So in fact, I was trying to resolve, but some problem is there, I think. So that's why it's not.
Sir, if you can switch off the video, I think there should be some.
That will be good.
Yes, sir, please.
Just a minute. So this is about little Jamia Hamdard. I belong to that institution that was instituted by one well-known Hakim and Hakim Abdul Hamid Sahib, and he created this campus and gifted to the government of India. Okay, so we have beautiful campus in which we have a school of pharmacy, and that you all know, and We are rank 1 pharmacy institute. You all are knowing, and since the last many years, okay, in NIRF ranking. This is my laboratory, and this is my group in which I developed a laboratory, that is a bioactive natural product laboratory, as a part of Department of Pharmacognosy. And this we have all the equipments related to drug discovery, including many high-end equipment, high-resolution mass spectrophotometer, metabolomics. So as you are aware about the different omics techniques, that is genomics, transcriptomics, and proteomics. So as you know that genomics is nothing but the study of complete set of genome of an organism. Okay, similarly, proteomics is complete study of complete set of proteins present in an organism. And that's how we can define the metabolomics is nothing but the study of complete set of metabolites of an organism, whether it is a plant or animal. Okay. So that is imparting much more in the drug discovery, in pharmacognosy, and many other aspects of. So here you can see, like if we talk about human then we have about 20,000 genes in the human, and then that transcribes about 1 lakh of transcripts, and that is useful purpose, and in which we have microbial metabolomics, nutrient metabolomics, biomarker drug discovery, disease metabolomics, in diagnosis, and in human metabolome, in toxicological, and in development of personalized medicines. So there are different aspects and applications of metabolomics. You see that here we have like in different human diseases, in food technology, in microbial technology, in drug discovery, in pharmacology, in toxicology, and in plant biotechnology, and transgenic research, plant breeding, many other things. Okay, so analyze, extract, prepare the sample, analyze, we are getting the raw data, and then we analyze those raw data by statistical analysis. And then we can categorize the different metabolites in different categories as per our requirement. In fact, how we do it, utilizing mass, utilizing NMR, many techniques, we are going to see it in different other techniques as well. If we discuss just LCMS, so we like samples we analyze with LCMS, and then raw data, whatever we are getting, and finding the peaks and mass, then we prepare a table and analyze by PCA, principal component analysis, and come out with different plots and showing different like groups, and we can correlate those things and find out biosynthetic pathways, and in molecular identification of raw materials. So in standardization, if we talk, then how it can be useful, we are taking like ethnomedicines, any develop the extracts, and then LCM, SMS, and other techniques used for generating data, and then exporting data by statistical analysis, and develop different PCA graph, and then find out the differential metaboloids, and those differential metaboloids can be used for the purpose of standardization and authenticity at a molecular level. Okay, so in drug discovery, how we do that? In drug discovery, we like identification of target or lead molecule, and then preclinical testing and clinical testing. Different aspects we cover, but
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. We are losing your voice.
mass spectra, NMR spectra of all that extract, and find out the peaks, and that mass of that all metaboloids present in them. Then we can target those things for their identification using the mass, that M by Z value. So through M by Z value, that is reported as well as given in different many of the softwares present online, and we can use those things for the identification of metaboloids present in different extracts, and that's how we can identify the metaboloids, and that is known as, in fact, dereplication. Every component present in that is in the extract, that is known as untargeted metabolomics or global metabolomics, or otherwise. If we are targeting some metaboloids, say that if we are having ascorbic, that amla, we are targeting analysis of ascorbic acid and lactic acid and chibulonic acid, then that is targeted metabolomics. If we are going to target it for some particular type of metaboloids. Okay, so in that we are also calling it metabonomics, in fact, if we are targeting it, or otherwise it is metabolomics in general. Untargeted metabolomics is known as metabolomics, whereas targeted metabolomics is known as metabonomics, if we want to quantify. Modern medicine that is composed of well-characterized compounds, and sometimes it's isomeric mixture, and sometimes like fractions or enriched extracts in the form of phytopharmaceutical. But in case of natural products, as medicine in India, we are having that ASU and H drugs, in which we have these ISM and Ayush medicine, mainly composed of, as I told you, botanicals and extracts and juices, etc. So since it is going to give you the complete picture of metaboloids, that metabolomics, and we started metabolomics, I think since 1990s, early 90s, the term see between modern medicine and a traditional medicine. So that's nothing but the quality. So how we can ensure the quality? If we are talking about paracetamol, that's a modern medicine. If you want to prepare a paracetamol, say that 100 tablet you want to prepare a 500 milligram, what you do, just take okay. So my voice is breaking, I think.
Yes, sir. Constantly, it is intermittent.
Just a minute.
Yes, sir.
Is it okay now, Dr. Pasha?
Yes, sir. Your voice is clear now.
I think it must be clear now.
Okay.
So I was talking about difference in modern and traditional medicine in pharmacognostic point of view. If we see, I told you that like paracetamol is a traditional, is modern medicine. If we want to prepare a tablet of paracetamol, say that 100 tablets. So what we do, like we take 500 multiplied by 100, and whatever the amount is we are getting, and we are using that for preparation of 100 tablet. Okay, but for getting it in the market, it should have plus minus 2% maximum variation, and that's what we check the quality, and we check its content in each tablet, and if those tablets containing 490 to 510 milligram of paracetamol, that is passes and goes to the market. But if we talk about any traditional medicine, say that Garcinia cambogia extract, and that is use, but if we want to prepare it a 500 milligram tablet, then we are preparing in same way like paracetamol, but after preparation of tablet, okay, we could not ensure its quality because we could not analyze the exact content of that extract, since it contains multiple components. So it is very tough to analyze that since it contains multiple components. So that's what is the difference. In fact, we could not analyze it completely. We could not ensure the quality completely. So, but now since inception of we are having now many sophisticated equipments, and so with that, if we go through the metabolomic profiling of these extracts present in the formulation, so we can analyze each and every component and quantitatively and qualitatively, and that's how we can ensure its quality as well. So Dr. Pasha, I think now my voice is clear.
Yes, sir. Can you please share the slides?
It's not shared.
Not shared, sir. Yeah, now they're shared. Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, okay. So that's what is the difference I told you, but it is very complex to analyze these components in traditional formulations, since many of the formulations are composed of either drug powder itself or juices or extract or distillates or sometimes unorganized drugs, and those are composed of gums, fixed oils, volatile oils, and those are having multiple chemistries. So it is very tough to analyze each and every component in just one go or using just one equipment. Okay, but in analysis, that sample preparation is also very important, and selection of analytical technique is also very important aspect. So since there are different dosage forms, and on the basis of dosage forms we can analyze these components, like if it is a solid dosage form, it is composed of powder or like tablet, or so those powders are either these are extracts or these are total complete raw material. So it contains multiple components. So if it is a liquid dosage form, like some distillate, like some, if you talk about asava, arista, or sharbat, so if you want to analyze like arc or distillate, so these distillates are composed of volatile principles only, water soluble volatile principles. So then here, so in the in distillates, those that components are volatile, mainly sesquiterpenes and terpenoids are present, and so that we can analyze them easily by GCMS. But if we talk about sharbat, so sharbat is usually composed of like is this type of formulations are having aqueous extracts in them. So the chemistry of aqueous extract, that may be composed of glycosides, sugars, and proteins, amino acids, like that. So we can think, see, we are talking about Ashava and Arista, these are very dilute formulations. If we want to go for their analysis, we must concentrate them if for thin layer chromatography, or otherwise in LCMS, we are supposed to dilute it. Similarly, different other formulations, and they are having their own chemistry, and depending on their preparation, we can select the method for sample preparation and analysis as well. So there are different techniques, as I told you, that these are like NMR, HPTLC, FTIR, GCMS, LCMS, and UPLC, MSMS is used for this metabolomic profiling, and their use depends that which type of formulation or which type of sample we are going to analyze. And here in our laboratory, we are using mainly that TLC, HPLC, GCMS, and LCMS, but rarely NMR we are using. Okay, but still it is of good use. Okay, but in many countries, people are using, since it is very complicated to analyze through NMR for the plant metabolomics, that's why we are using other techniques. So here, what is the workflow, and that's how we are doing. I think my voice is clear now.
Yes, sir. Very much clear.
Okay. So then we prepare the sample and like extraction and other things. I told for different type of formulation, go for LC-MS analysis and find out the peaks and then identify them pick their M by Z value, and with M by Z value we identify those compounds through different data sets available online and through the literature, and that's what I told you about dereplication studies. And since we are getting about in one extract, we are getting about 300, approximately 100 to 300 compounds, and then do some principal component analysis, and through principal component analysis we find out the different type of metaboloids and our target metaboloids. In fact, the metaboloids which are found in higher concentration and showing large area and must be responsible for their biological activity. And then we do some in silico analysis as well and find out their biological activity. Then I told you that in metabolomics what is the use of metabolomics in different sets. So metabolomics can be used for metaboloid profiling. It may be in plasma, it may be in the blood, it may be in the urine, it may be in the feces. Any sample we can take. Similarly, we can take any sample from the plants and analyze each and every metaboloid present in that, even if it is present in picogram or less than that. So like here, I told you the data sets, whatever we are getting, different, this is just one peak, this table is showing hundreds of metaboloids. And even this Excel sheet, if you see, so since we are getting lesser number of metaboloids in HPTLC, and that's what it is. Okay, so in TLC we are getting very lesser number of metaboloids, but if you see, this is just only up to 54 nanometers. Similarly at 366, similarly at different combining and doing so a lot of things we do in Excel sheet, and then we are getting some plots and which are showing that how these samples are resembling, or what are the metaboloids, which type of metaboloids are present in them. We are getting some data through, mainly through statistical analysis. So statistical analysis is the main tool in metabolomic profiling. Then in authentication of plant material, say that like here I have shown 8 samples of Umbilica officinalis we collected and seen the variation of metaboloids present in different geographical regions and how they are closely related, which sample is closely related and which is not, that is they are in the cluster that we can see. So that's how we do. Similarly, we do the metabolomics in variation of different cultivars we can identify, and like we can identify, like Boogaloo is used in different for different aspects in traditional medicine, but since its exhaustive use makes it endangered, so now people are thinking that instead of reason what else we can use. So we try to work out on that. We try to work on bark, we try to work on stem and leaf parts and see how and which part is going to be most resembling with the resin, so that we can explore those things in future in traditional medicine, in addition to that oleogum resin that we are getting from the Boogaloo. So similarly, that differential metaboloids, I told you there are some metaboloids one plant like we did earlier, like Umbilica officinalis. I told you the example of 8 geographical regions. So we can find out the differential metaboloids present in them, like which is completely the metabolite which is completely different from other geographical regions. So those are differential metaboloids. In fact, for the first time, this type of technique used for identification of disease condition, like if someone is suffering from any disease and that is going to produce some unique metaboloid, and that is going to differentiate that human or that animal or disease condition with others, with normal person. So that can be used for the purpose of identity of that disease. So similarly here in plant metabolomics, we are using that differential metaboloids. Then you know that since we are going to in metabolomics identify each and every metaboloid, so we are going to correlate through network pharmacology and it in different biochemical pathways that I will show you in next slide, and then also in molecular mechanism of the biosynthesis, as well as its use for the treating different diseases. Okay, so then if we are going to identify these metaboloids, and if these are present in significant amount, we can do some in silico analysis and predict that it's a toxicity of those metaboloids. Similarly, we can predict that therapeutic effect if there are some metaboloids present in significant amount and may contribute in different biological effects and even physiological conditions, as I told you, in differential analysis of differential metaboloids. That can be used for the purpose of identifying different pathological conditions through, and in network pharmacology analysis, that's of much use. And then this for identifying different disease condition and for different in treatment pathways that we can find out through network pharmacology. So there are different aspects that we can do, and this was just introduction about metabolomics. Further we will see that what we are doing in our laboratory, so how we do the metabolomics based identification of active metaboloids of traditional medicine. So just one example, like Butia monosperma was used since a long time in Jharkhand, and then once long back, I think approximately 5 to 6 years back, I got a call from ICMR that since the pupils of this Jharkhand are using Butia monosperma for the diabetes, so can you work something for development of some phytopharmaceutical or any drug from this Butia monosperma, or to find out the active metaboloids of them. So how we start working? So first we develop a project, and then this we worked on this. How we work, since those pupils are using this its flour and preparing its decoction, and then that decoction they are using for the treatment of diabetes. What we did, we prepared the decoction as the pupils were preparing, and then did some toxicity studies, and we found that it was safe. And since it was safe, then we did the in vitro anti-diabetic and in vivo anti-diabetic activities, and found that aqueous extract was effective. And when it was found effective, then we thought of fractionation on the basis of polarity, as well as on the basis of metaboloids, like we can differentiate total alkaloids, glycosides, resins present in them, and or otherwise we can make a fractionation on the basis of like hexane fraction, like DCM fraction, like on the basis of polarity. Okay, so we developed that fractions, and then we also did the activity and found one fraction which was most active. Okay, then those fractions and the total extract, we have gone through high resolution mass spectrometry and find out all those metaboloids. Then to those metaboloids we have given into the rats and find out how many of them are bioavailable. Say that if total 25 metaboloids were present, then how many of them are bioavailable, analyzed and identified all of them, and that is known as pattern recognition analysis. And we can do those things, revalidate those things through some other models, that is yeast cell metabolomics, and there are some metaboloids. In fact, if 25 total metaboloids were present in some active fraction, so if you are taking few, say that 15 are bioavailable, and if 15 are bioavailable, then about 10 is not bioavailable, and about 10, so what happens, they are going to either change by gut microbiota or they are biotransformed by hepatocytes. That also we can see. We can isolate gut microbiota, we are doing in our lab, and we see how this is going to biotransform the metaboloids of extract. And then similarly with the hepatocytes we can see. And since what happens when we give extract containing 25 metaboloids, we found suppose 15 metaboloids are bioavailable, but we also get some ghost molecule which were neither present in the original extract or given to the rats, or earlier present in the blood. So those ghost metaboloids are nothing but these are the metaboloids we have given that got converted by biotransformation or anyway with gut microbiota, and these are bioavailable. So the that those out of 15, so we have few more metaboloids which are bioavailable, and then find out major metaboloids present in them which are having some significant quantity, and then did in silico screening and find out the best one, and that can regulate that diabetic pathway in human beings, and did pharmacokinetics and other analysis. Some of study of this is here, like MSMS analysis and other chromatograms of this. Then we find out like these were the major metaboloids in Butia monosperma, like butyrine, isobutyrine, and like the choriospin. If we see in the nutshell, so it was similar to like earlier in yeast cell metabolomics. And total number of metaboloids like 150 in the extract, and different types and at different hours the bioavailable metabolite. Then here see, as I was telling that, so this was like aqueous extract of Butia monosperma flower. We got like 27 metaboloids. Out of them 15 were bioavailable, 12 not bioavailable. But here we got 21 molecules bioavailable, since 6 molecules screened through other ways, and by like few from gut microbiota, few from hepatocyte metabolism, and we found the major metaboloids present in them, did some in silico analysis, and find out that these 4 metaboloids were having, we did some bioautographic analysis and also confirmed with like 3 of them were most active, did PK analysis, and then postulated mechanism, patented and published. And then similar to that, there are many traditional formulations which are used for different diseases and most effective in traditional system. So we selected one, that is one aromatic water of like Ayurvedic system, that's Archimako, that is used in fatty liver. So most frequently it is used. So when we analyze, it contains about 56 metaboloids. Out of them 38 were bioavailable. Okay, so out of those 38 we find out the major metaboloids which are having this peak area of approximately 1% or more than that, did in silico analysis and find out which one is like having best activity and predicted the mechanism. Similarly, like some problems in those traditional formulations, since those were aromatic waters. So there were stability problems, and this in traditional system also, they have not written much more about their stability and shelf life. So since we were working in the aromatic waters, so we got another project on that and analyze all those components into the major metabolites. We did stability and pharmacokinetic profiling of those metabolites, and that were showing that these were the major metabolites. And then in pharmacokinetic analysis, we have given some idea about the shelf life of these aromatic waters to the pharmacopoeial commissions, and then they are using it in pharmacopoeia. Okay, then like Carica papaya is used since a long time for dengue fever related thrombocytopenia. So we did a lot of work on that and developed the most active fraction, that is butanol fraction, and it's reduced its dose, and even given to one company. They patented and they are using it, and we did all the quality control and other analysis through even chromatographic techniques and mass spectrometry. Then we did some analysis and studies on like cardioprotective drugs. In fact, in traditional system, there are hundreds of formulations are available which are using some common drugs, and we found that about 63 drugs are used in for cardioprotection. Okay, so all those 63, in fact, we got some treatise in one Ibn Sina's treatise. He mentioned in his book and long back for their use in cardioprotection. So we analyzed all those. In fact, find out the major one, and the major through reports as well as through its common use in traditional systems. So about 15 drugs were very common out of 63. So we analyzed in vitro and in vivo condition of all those drugs, and find out that out of them, best one was Amomum subulatum, and the bigger cardamom and coriander and jatamanshi. So to them, we analyze all those components present in that those extracts, and that is metabolomic profiling. Then further, we develop in our lab some like adjuvant for chemotherapy, since terpenoids are much used in in cancer. So many drugs are there for the cancer which are terpenoidal in nature. So we find out some drugs are rich in terpenoid and used mainly for immunomodulation in traditional system. So we developed that terpenoid enriched fraction and given to the rats and as an adjuvant to the chemotherapy in the laboratory testing animals, and found that some fractions of terpenoid enriched fractions of bucopamone and picorrhiza curua were having a good activity, and they analyze their constituents, the terpenoid constituents. Here you can see with the in anti-cancer activity, and this fraction is of this becopulmonary was just approximately equal to that of 5-fluorouracil. Similarly, we developed an adjuvant for hepatocellular carcinoma from Boswellia serrata, and that was also showing like Boswellia serrata and doxorubicin in even in half dose in showing better protection as compared to doxorubicin full dose. And then after that, like many other drugs we did in our laboratory, and citrulose cholosynthesis also used for diabetes. So we did and analyze it by high throughput screening and bioautographic analysis. that alpha amylase and beta glucosidase inhibitory compounds present in them and identified through mass spectrometry. Then we also did work on Tylophora indica and find out terpenoid that the enriched fraction, which is showing the best anti-cancer activity, which was having about 11 components. Okay. Similarly, we developed some formulation from Morus alba. In fact, Morus alba is used since a long time in some system of traditional medicine for different purposes, and in diabetes as well. So we identified its anti-diabetic compounds, and that is deoxynorigomycin, and then through HPLC bioautography, okay, and identified and quantified and identified other components present in that. Similarly, we worked on Eagle marmelos. Eagle marmelos is also having good activity leaf of it, but since it contains eagalin and that is a toxic alkaloid, so what we did, we worked on that alkaloid-free portion, alkaloid-free extract of Eagle marmelos, and showing good biological activity, and that is having some phenolic and flavonoidal constituents. We identified them through HPLC bioautography and mass spectrometry. Then there are several medicinal plants which are used for human disorders, and many of them are having estrogenic potential. Okay, so in them we found that Rheum palmatum was having good estrogenic potential, and we identified the components responsible and having that estrogenic activity in them, and through yeast inhibition model, and then by mug assay and through bioautographic analysis, we identified the components responsible for the activity. Similarly, we developed some synergistic combination for memory, and later on this combination was developed for Alzheimer's. Okay, and we developed some combination. In fact, what we did that different medicinal plants and formulations which are used in traditional medicine for memory and brain disorders, we collected and about 25 medicinal plants, and did some in vitro activity in cell lines as well as in vitro models, and find out Bidania somnifera and Myristica were having best among all. Then we combined them with the extracts and in different ratios. In one ratio, using isobolographic model was showing the best activity, that is the best combination. And that best combination was in fact developed in the form of drug. It was patented. And then we identified the compounds responsible for the activity and anticholinesterase inhibitory activity. And then we find out the other metaboloids present in them as well, and through multivariate analysis. Okay. Then some immunomodulatory formulation, in fact, we developed in the COVID that, so for that we collected about 30 plus medicinal plants which were reported for immunomodulatory activity and used in traditional system. Found that even amla and black pepper and Tinospora cardifolia were best among all in vitro and in vivo activities. Then we developed the synergistic combination of that, and also identified all those metaboloids present in them, and patented finally. And so this is also in use right now. Then we develop, since CKD is a major problem right now, so we started working on CKD. So in CKD, what we did, there are different formulas. There is nothing is available in the modern medicine. So what we did, that in Ayurveda and Unani, whatever the medicines and bhasmas used in traditional system as a formulation or as a single drug for the treatment of different kidney disorders, people collected them all and tested in cell lines and find out that out of all them, Tinospora cordifolia and Burhavia diffusa were among the best drugs. And then we developed them in the form of like we identified those components present in them, and through mass spectrometry, and finally, in fact, what we did, we find out that antioxidant compounds first present in them through HPTLC bioautography, and those antioxidant compounds present in both the plants were further studied through, and other compounds we also quantified. Then we did some network pharmacology studies and find out the genes which are interacting with these metaboloids, those antioxidant metaboloids, and then find out the pathways, how they can work for kidney disorders. Okay. And then similarly, what we did, that we did the GCMS analysis of those Burhavia diffusa and Tinospora cordifolia, and identified about hundreds of metaboloids. Did some multivariate analysis and find out the major metaboloids in them. And to those major metaboloids, we further did in silico analysis, and those in silico analysis, we find out how they are going to interact with the different genes and different disease conditions, okay, and how they are going to be useful for kidney disorders. So all those metaboloids we identified, the major of them were 10 out of these two combination, and how they we identified their target genes and their biological contribution, and that's how we predicted its mechanism through network pharmacology. So that's how we are working in our laboratory. And this was just a brief about my presentation, and since it creates a havoc because of not working network, or otherwise, I think it must be a good presentation. So thank you very much, all of you, for listening me. And once again, thank you, Dr. Hassan and KLE, for giving me opportunity to present my work there in your in this forum.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. The forum is open for discussion. Anyone has any queries, you can put forward. Okay. So if there are no queries, since the there is one question by Vaibhavi. Metabolomics needs which essential instruments? So that is her question.
Okay. So metabolomics, in fact, we can do from HPTLC. Starting from HPTLC, we can go ahead with HPLC, and but the major thing is that at least we need LC-MS for metabolomic profiling. Okay. Or otherwise, just doing HPLC fingerprinting, we are not getting much more things in HPTLC and HP. We can use these techniques as well. Otherwise, we are using mainly that LC-MS analysis for this.
Okay, sir.
Sir, on my side, regarding this gut microbiota analysis, how it will be done, sir? That's using animal models or
No. In fact, we are using animal models as well as human model. So in human, earlier we were doing it by collecting the feces from students, but now it is the part we have to go for first approval through ethical committee even for collection of feces. So it's now a long process, but when we collected once, so like we collected last year for a few students and through ethical committee, but we are going to preserve it in our laboratory and we revive it and use it. Yeah, like that.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So it's now very critical since ICMR guidelines came for collection of human samples. Okay, but we can do it easily in the laboratory. And since then, students started working on collecting the feces from the rats. Okay, and then we are using first. They are checking it. If they are not getting the human samples, because it is very time taking to take the approval from ethical committee. So the students using shortcut to use it through rat, and then go ahead with that. Yeah.
Okay, so there are certain literatures what we found in case of mice they have used, sir, most of the time.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, mice, rats, even
one more question, sir. That's most of the preparations whatever you have prepared or most of the extracts whatever you have taken, that is from the aqueous extract itself. But in the regular system, what we do, that is we go for the non-polar as well as the polar itself. So
that's one thing. Just we are publishing some manuscript on aqueous extract only.
Yes.
So in fact, the use of aqueous extracts, why we are doing, since it resembles with our traditional system. In our traditional system, we are going to use much more aqueous extract. Sometimes we are using 50-50 hydroalcoholic extract, but mainly we are using aqueous extracts. So that's why, in fact, whatever we are using, if we are using at our traditional heritage, so in traditional system, whatever it is, any formulation, say that ashwagandha, okay. So if ashwagandha is used in the form of decoction in Ayurveda, and they are using it since a long time for any disorder, say that, okay. So if they are using for any disorder for using aqueous extract only, so if we are going to use alcoholic extract or any other extract, then the problem is of toxicity. Okay. Since it is used since long time using aqueous extract, so we are using it as such as it is mentioned in Ayurveda or Unani or in other traditional system. Otherwise, there are lots of questions about toxicity. First, we go for the toxicity testing. Even for the aqueous extract, first we go for the toxicity testing. But there are many metaboloids which can interfere, and we cannot correlate it with our traditional system. That's why.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, if you compare reverse pharmacology and study by metabolomics, which one you would say will have an upper hand in drug discovery?
So it's in reverse pharmacology, not much difference, but the thing is that metabolomics is having always upper hand, since we are going to analyze each and every component in that. Like if you say any extract, if you are using, you can find out the active principle, you can find out inactive one, you can find out all the bioavailable metaboloids and major metaboloids which can be the possible active each and everything you can. So the days has gone when the pupils were asking question from us that you are using traditional medicine and it have hundreds of unknown components. So now nothing is unknown, each and everything is known. Profile. So someone is asking like Pratibha, like that metabolomics is only applicable to investigate nothing like diabetes. I think in my slides much example is there for diabetes. Usko main nikal dunga next time. So what happens? Usually we are not getting much time to prepare the slides. Okay. So in every presentation, I change 1 or 2 slides in new presentation. Okay. And we are engaged in such a way that like kabhi maine count nahi kiya ki kitne lecture, how many lectures we have given. But if we count it more, it be more than 100 like that. So every 2-3 days we have lectures. So and we are changing slides like students. I ask the students कि इसमें कुछ ये portion डाल दे, कुछ ये portion like that. And before just 5 to 10 minutes when I have any presentation, I add some more information on that and start like this. Okay. Because since I involved in many of the projects of still right now we have approximately about 5 crores of grant. So many students are working, and we also have families, we also have university, we are working in the university system. So you know all those things, like you are engaged, we are also engaged. So how much time we can get to change the slides? Okay. Usually just we are changing 1, 2, 3 or maximum 5 slides. Okay. And the rest other things are, so usme se many times we are deleting something like that. Okay. Sometimes even if it's repeated. Okay. So this time you got many things of diabetes. So now I know that I have to remove many things, but it can be used for all the purposes. In fact, I took the examples of like Alzheimer's, I took the examples of like this CKD, I took the examples of hepatoprotection. So everywhere metabolomics can be used for any of the disease condition. We can use it for to identify the active metaboloids and many other things.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. On behalf of KLE College of Pharmacy, on my own behalf, I thank you from bottom of my heart for accepting our invitation and enlightening us on metabolomics, which is an gray area for most of the pharmacognosists, I believe. I request Kaldi sir to conclude the section.
Thank you, sir. That's mainly the topic was more interesting, and especially the same drugs have been taken. What we feel, that's especially the Butyrum monosperma or the Borrelia diffusa. That's a regular drugs itself, which we have used as a diuretics or for this cardiac protective drugs itself. But lots of things can be done. That is what you have shown, sir. That's with the same drugs, we can do a lot. And the extracts or the simple units, that's the HPTLC and HPLC, with that itself, we can make a lot of research itself. That you have shown, sir. And more area related to this gut microbiota, that is more interesting, because all the traditional drugs, whatever we are using, that will be showing a effect on the gut microbiota itself. And if we show that as a positive, then definitely it can be used for any of the diseases itself. So that is the thing. And you have highlighted the other aspects, that's especially the metabolomics. That are the newer terms which most of the delegates might be feeling it. But this is interesting also, and one can take this this type of works and proceed. All the time it requires your guidance, sir, and we'll be interacting in some of the time itself, sir. Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
In fact, there are many things. I will take 1 or 2 minutes to ask to answer one question is there. So in fact, yeah, in metabolomics, we easily can do. In fact, and I presented, I think in Pune. So I took there the basic thing. Okay, we can go through just taking one topic and going deep. Okay, but I usually not take it because it is going to be lengthy, one thing, and everyone is not going to be interested in just one thing that we can, and the problem of understanding is also okay. So if you have good chemistry, you can understand. If you don't have good chemistry, then there is a problem. Okay, so that makes uneasy for the speaker as well as for the listener also. That's why I take the basic things that I can tell you. But the main thing is that each and everyone can do. If you want to take this instead of that gut microbiota part, you can take that hepatocyte part. Okay, hepatocyte biotransformation. Nothing is there. Just take your extract, put it in the hepatocytes, and hepatocytes you can get from any of the rat, and put it in that, and you will find out the molecules which are going to be biotransformed through that hepatocytes. Okay, just keep the extract, 24-hour extract, those things, compare it with the normal extract, you will get some data, good data. Okay, and that can be published in any of the journal. One question is there, that if I am doing GCMS analysis of plant extract and matching with the NIST library and found 11 phytochemicals, then can we tell the metabolomic study, or is it different from? So this is Vaibhav. Yeah. So if Vaibhavi, if I can, yeah. So this about GCMS analysis, in fact, pupils are not knowing, even many of the pharmacognosis. Okay, when pupils are extracting, they are preparing the aqueous extract, alcoholic extract, and any of the extract, and going for GCMS analysis or TLC analysis. And so, like that when it is qualitative analysis of amino acids, if you are talking about, or sugars, then what we are using, we are mainly using the paper chromatography. We are not going for the thin layer chromatography. Okay, we are using paper chromatography of amino acids, sugars, like that. Okay, so similarly, we cannot do each and everything on, like if we are supposed to separate some glycosides, it takes about 8 hours to separate the glycosides on paper chromatography. Who have time to do that right now? Okay, so we are selection of technique is very important in this. As I told you earlier, that there are lots of techniques, so we have to select depending on the type of constituent present in our sample. You are doing GCMS analysis of any extract showing only 11 compound, that only reflects that extraction is not proper. That's all. Our sample preparation is not proper. We are getting maximum number of compounds only in GCMS analysis, okay, rather than in LCMS or in NMR. We are getting maximum compounds in GCMS. Getting 11 compounds are in like less than 30 or 40 compounds in GCMS, that means extraction is not proper, if it is an extract. Okay, one thing. Second thing, for GCMS, we are mainly concerned with the volatile ions and fixed ions. Nothing else we can analyze through GCMS. But what people do, people prepare the aqueous extract and put it in GCMS. People prepare the alcoholic extract and put it in GCMS. Every day pupils are coming, many even pharmacognosist are sending me sample and telling, sir, GCMS karna hai. Then I ask them, why you want to do GCMS? Why not else? Okay, just tell me the purpose and type of sample. Then I will tell you that what you have to use. Not GCMS karna hai, LCMS, nothing like that. Okay, so first choosing of selection of that right technique is very essential, and depending on that sample preparation, no one can do the sample preparation. No biologist know that how we can prepare the sample of any plant sample plant sample rather than a but a pharmacognosis. Only a pharmacognosis is knowing कि आपने एक plant उठाया, if you took a leaf and put it in water, then what happened to that? Okay, put it in alcohol, then what happened to that? Which phytoconstituent is there and which phytoconstituent is here? Only a pharmacognosist is knowing. So we have to utilize our advantageous this thing, and so that we can prepare a good sample and use it properly. So sample preparation and that the selection of technique is very essential in this way for any type of analysis. Thank you very much, Babu, for asking. Yeah.
Before concluding, I have one question which I think I can clarify. You have told about selection of analytical technique. Before one step back, sample preparation, which is the ideal method you feel for aqueous extract preparation? Is it only maceration, or you feel any other technique of is most ideal?
It depends on type of constituent mainly, but mainly we do the reflux.
Reflux. Okay.
You cannot go ahead with the Soxhlet in aqueous extract. Okay. Yeah, a few days back I was evaluating one thesis. So, and very big institute. Okay. So they are preparing, they have written, they prepared the aqueous extract using Soxhlet extraction. Okay. So I don't know what is the purpose, but we can use maceration, we can use percolation, we can use the mainly what is right now the recommendable technique for preparation of aqueous sample is either reflux if you are going through traditional way, or otherwise use that sonication. Sonication is the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for clearing our doubts. I think that was the best session we have where we have clarified our doubts. Any question is there? Karuna madam, you have unmuted your mic. Do you have any question to ask? I don't think, sir. It may be by mistake. Okay, sir. I think there's no question. Thank you once again, sir, on behalf of Kelly College of Pharmacy, Hubli, and on behalf of all the team of this FDP. I take this privilege to thank you for accepting our invitation and gracing this occasion and sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Dear delegates, we shall meet for this conclusion of this FDP program for the valedictory function at 1 p.m. Another 15 minutes, we'll take a break and we'll join back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.